Everyone is frustrated with Mascot Horror. While I was working on my Garten of Banban video, I would come across dozens of videos and tweets claiming Mascot Horror is dead. But why is that? Because for every garden, there's an Amanda the Adventurer or Baby in Yellow. But then that point is countered with Poppy Playtime, Rainbow Friends, and Garten all essentially looking the same. Today, I want to explore whether or not Mascot Horror is a dying genre. Is the genre doomed to come to an end, or is there more life in the genre? However, I won't be doing this alone. I'm joined by my fellow gaming sleuth, the Game Salmon.
Why do you always call in the middle of me working on a video?
I think there's no denying that Mascot Horror has been running the scene for quite some time now. While we can credit FNAF for really creating the explosion of games, the genre goes back a little further.
While you could tie the genre back to movie tie-in games on the NES, here on YouTube, one of the first games that really took the platform by storm was Slender Man.
Slender Man was a launching point for a lot of creators, but what followed were games like Outlast and Amnesia that leaned harder into the not-so-kid-friendly horror aspect. That's when we fast forward to FNAF.
Since then, we've seen breakout hits like Bindi, Poppy Playtime, Hello Neighbor, Choo Choo Charles, Andy's Apple Farm, and a massive pile of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. But in between those breakouts, there is a giant iceberg worth of garbage that I myself have played. For every hit, there's about 1,000 duds floating beneath the surface.
It hasn't been until recently here in 2023 that the internet's frustration with the genre has hit a boiling point. So we're here to attempt to answer the question on whether or not Mascot Horror is actually doomed, and if so, is there a chance to save it?
The answer may shock you.
Not a BuzzFeed video.
I just wanted to add some spice.
They don't need spice. They need protection while they surf the internet. Browsing the internet can have a lot of vulnerabilities, and maybe even some malicious mascots trying to get you, Monica. But it just got a lot more secure thanks to our sponsor for today, Atlas VPN. I'm sure you've heard of a VPN, and I cannot stress enough how important it is when you're browsing the internet. Atlas VPN is here to keep your connection safe and secure while at home or away. Atlas VPN also blocks malicious ads and malware from getting into your system. They'll even alert you if someone's trying to steal your data, like say, Monica. The best part though is Atlas VPN can be used on unlimited devices with a single subscription. Now Monica has no way in, because Atlas VPN locked all my internet doors. Right now, Atlas VPN is offering cybernauts a sweet summer deal. You can get a 3-year subscription for only $183 a month, plus an additional 3 months on top of that. That's 3 years for an insanely low price and a nice 3 extra months. Simply click on the link in the description to get started. Browse the internet safely and securely with Atlas VPN. It'll help keep the Mascot Horror at bay.
So before we can talk about anything, we need to talk about what people are complaining about. While it's only a smaller handful of things, they're crucial components to any game.
So after some research and Discord calls, here's the main complaints which we'll tackle in more detail. 1. Everything has some sort of spooky hidden lore, aka theory beat. 2. The premise of every game feels all the same. 3. The designs of the characters and levels are just too damn bright. Let's start with the lore, because if anyone is sick of this, it's me.
I mean, the lore is kinda what pays a lot of creators' bills.
Not important.
Money is not important?
Okay, so it's complicated.
No matter what game you end up picking up in the Mascot Horror genre, you're almost guaranteed some mysterious dark lore. The dark truth that you, the player, need to solve with multiple videos on your YouTube channel. Whether it's through vague Easter eggs in the game or analog horror-style teasers, the real meat of the story always seems to be in the lore.
And yes, I know you're thinking it. This is absolutely FNAF's fault. What story has been more vague and infuriating to solve than the FNAF timeline? However, it sparked something in the indie horror community that no game has been able to replicate. Every new FNAF adds more pieces to what's truly happening behind the scenes, and yet It's all story elements not told through the actual game.
Since FNAF, it has become the thing Mascot Horror keeps trying to make: theory bait, getting creators to theorize on the truth and create content that creates a tighter community. Now, we're not saying that is necessarily a bad thing, but when it's done right, it can be an absolute blast to try and decipher everything. But when done wrong, you get something that is just way too obscure, or you get something way too forced.
This, I feel, is the complaint. Mascot Horror just hasn't done the dark lore correctly. It just feels like all rehashed pieces from other games. Which brings me to point number 2, every premise feeling very overdone at this point. Let me start with a question. How many Mascot Horror games involve big corporation does experiments? Go ahead and list in the comments, we'll wait.
You may want to pause the video while you write.
For sure you will probably find a lot of them.
It's a really tired premise, and one that seems like every Mascot Horror does. Sure, there are standouts like Baby in Yellow and Choo Choo Charles, but the last 3 big games I played had some sort of corporation doing experiments. Even FNAF ended up here with Remnant and the dreaded, oh my god, I hope it isn't canon, Phasgoo.
Dumbest I've ever heard.
That was harsh.
It's true, ask Jericho.
You two have problems.
You have no idea. But even beyond the experiments, it's all a lot of kid-friendly toy/character is actually evil. It's pretty much what the genre is built on, and it's because of that, it was bound to be overdone a whole lot and very quickly.
But nothing is as bad as the final point. The designs, especially characters, are just too bright and colorful. It's to the point where the horror elements just aren't there anymore. Nothing is more guilty of this than Rainbow Friends and Garten. There is this illusion of horror to the game, but the bright corridors and characters that are bright colors just ruin it.
Even Poppy Playtime to a degree suffers from this. Huggy and Mommy Longlegs don't actually feel creepy and a threat until way late in the chapter when we finally see that evil side. Poppy, on the other hand, does work because dolls are creepy and they all need to be destroyed for the sake of humanity. You can quote me on that, but just don't let them hear you. They're always listening and watching. Ah!
These are the biggest criticisms you see about the genre, and that's not even going into the whole FNAF fan game section, a giant subgenre with Mascot Horror that has been done to death. So many animatronics, and Sonics for some reason.
But this doesn't really answer the question of, is Mascot Horror dying? There are complaints, but what are the symptoms of a dying genre? Well, funnily enough, horror wasn't the first genre that was infected with mascots.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo, New Super Mario World.
New Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, he really ducked my doilies.
Bingo! Bubsy 2 was born!
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Tomba has captured the hearts of Americans everywhere.
Join Croc as he runs, jumps, swims, climbs.
Let's rewind back to my own childhood in the 90s. Keep going.
A little further. Yeah.
Back during the 90s, you had 2 absolute powerhouses in gaming, the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Following them up was even bigger hitters with the start of 3D gaming, Nintendo 64, Sega Dreamcast, the PlayStation. Every house had one of these iconic consoles, and every single developing company needed to have their mascot at the forefront. Man, this is exciting. I don't get to talk about these games often.
And while you had your breakouts like Mario, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot, and unfortunately Bubsy, between all that you had tons of others. Bonk, Vector Man, Croc, Tomba, Jazz, Jackrabbit, Rister, Earthworm Jim, the list goes on, and each one with various levels of quality. I mean, a personal favorite of mine was Gex. You know that's one cool lizard.
Yeah, well, meanwhile, Dan here got stuck with Bubsy 3D. I love Mama Cybert, but this was a terrible Christmas gift. My brothers and I tried to beat this game multiple times to no avail. It was just so, what's the word, bad? Now, this isn't just me ranting. I mean, it is. My channel, my rules. No, screw it. Bubsy 3D was a mind-numbing adventure that looks like a half-finished Gmod map with loads of... Right, the reason I bring it up is for 2 reasons. First, there were plenty of games in the genre that were absolutely terrible.
HalfBaked Games that, hey, remind me a lot of what we're seeing with Mascot Horror right now, maybe?
There were plenty of games that looked like a developer vomited on the screen, Bubsy 2, and games that seemed like a slam dunk, but then like tank controls. crock, and games trying to teach you how to recycle through the absolute worst game possible.
Awesome Possum kicks Dr. Machino's butt, a game I found while researching this. I watched 3 seconds of gameplay and hated that I ever found it.
The point being, as the success of Mario, Sonic, and the rest kept growing, more and more crappy half-baked games came out, very much in the similar way that FNAF success spawned loads of FNAF games, and a bunch more Mascot Horror games.
Which brings us to the second point. While those two genres share a lot of similarities in their rise and oversaturation, there's one distinct difference between these: price. Back in the 90s, the success of a game completely was dependent on its sales. If the game didn't sell well, then the extra copies wound up in a discount bin. If it made a profit, well, you saw a sequel, almost guaranteed.
Today, you still have that same model, but that's only one way to see success. There's a new method that really only has appeared within the age of the internet: virality. Just like any video, piece of art, or meme, games can ride this wave of virality. If the game hits all those right spots and creators pick up on it, a game can launch to the moon, even if it's fundamentally bad. One solid meme about a mediocre Mascot Horror game drums up a lot of curiosity and attention.
And that's the thing. This type of success has a different price tag: attention. Instead of dropping $60,
$70 now.
I really hate that. Instead of dropping that cash, you're paying with your attention, your views, your interaction, your time. And this is the crux of this entire situation. There's a certain demographic that has a lot of attention power, and that is kids.
Kids have all the power when it comes to viral success. That's why Garten of Banban and Rainbow Friends actually ended up doing insanely well in the space. The game hits all the right beats for a kids game: bright colors, simple puzzles, and a relatable location. And that is what ends up feeding the virality, because as creators, we also succeed with that same currency of attention. So when Garten of Banban starts doing well on the platform, well, we're making videos. It's the circle of gaming content.
And with game development being more accessible than ever, a lot of games are just pumped out, especially in the Mascot Horror genre. Game Jolt even created a full list of FNAF fan games alone that is filled with thousands of Mascot Horror games. So while we had a limited pool of Mascot Platformers, Mascot Horror is oversaturated to an extreme, which means there's just more terrible games to sift through to find the next breakout hit.
I would know. I've played so many terrible FNAF fan games that it's slowly destroying my soul. See, this is where that attention currency comes in. Who do you think is browsing those pages and searching for new games to play? Kids. Maybe you're older and occasionally do, but there's no denying the more responsibility you have, the less time you have to search. And sure, we creators get a chance to dive in every now and then, but we go off of what others are playing. We're not browsing these pages casually like kids do. So when a game really resonates with the kid demographic, it spreads quickly and ends up being suggested in our comment sections.
And here's a brutal truth for you: most kids don't have great tastes.
And I know this because I was a kid once, and I had very bad taste.
I have nostalgic feelings for the incredibly okay game Bubsy 2, and I hate that that feeling exists. It's objectively mediocre as hell, and that's where this comparison is leading up to. In the 90s, bad franchises died to the dollar. Today, bad franchises die when attention is taken off it. That is the problem. As long as kids latch onto the franchise, it will always have viral success. Garten of Banban is a prime example of this.
Now, with all this in mind, I think we can actually answer the question, is Mascot Horror dying? Well, really the answer to that is that it's just incredibly bloated right now. With so many games coming out and developers getting smarter with how they market the game, there's just bound to be waves of bad games between waves of good. Right now, we're just in one of those waves of meh.
The thing is, there's still a lot of hope for the genre. One thing I didn't really elaborate on is that back during the Mascot Platformer boom, kids were still running the market. Sure, we didn't have the cash, but we could bug the hell out of our parents. And soon enough, we were making our own money and our taste changed. Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank may have been the last games in that initial wave of Mascot Platformers, since that's when we saw the boom of FPS shooters. Think of your Call of Duties, Medal of Honor, Halo, Gears of War, Time Splitters, etc. All of those flooded the market as Mascot Platformers went out of style. We had grown up and our taste had changed to the shooter market.
Fast forward to the 2010s and there was a revival of Mascot Platformers. Games Games like A Hat in Time, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart reignited the love for these franchises. Now, every couple of years, we get something in the genre that just kills it.
Rift Apart is a damn Pixar movie, and I love it so much.
And what about Shovel Knight? That was an indie platform game that got so popular, it got a trophy in Super Smash Bros.
This is what I foresee with Mascot Horror. At some point, the genre will die down to be replaced by something else. But that just means the genre will be more concentrated and even spawn games that hit more mainstream.
And it's already looking up. My Friendly Neighborhood is incredible. Perhaps another video for another time.
The main thing we want to get across is that gaming is just like anything that comes in waves. Genres replacing old ones. Shooters fall to the wayside as story-based games took center stage during quarantine. And just as Amnesia and Outlast were quickly overshadowed by FNAF, something is bound to come along that matures with Mascot Horror fans.
Needless to say that if you're worried or already think the genre's dying, it isn't. As I said in the beginning of my last video, Mascot Horror isn't going anywhere. If you're fans of the genre, you might be in a tough spot right now.
But hey, could be worse. It's not like Bubsy's trying to invade the Mascot Horror genre. Yet.
What could possibly go wrong?
Thank you everyone for watching. Special thanks to the Game Salmon for joining me on this one. This was not an easy ride, but we got through it. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for new videos and streams, and I'll see you next time. Cybert out.